I never thought my insomnia would be a blessing. In a world where everyone shares the same dream every night, being awake made me special, made me powerful, but it also made me a target. My name is Alex Thompson, and this is the story of how I learned to manipulate the shared dreamscape, and how it almost destroyed me. It all started about 5 years ago when the dream sync happened. Nobody knows why or how, but suddenly, every person on Earth began sharing the same dream. Every night as people fell asleep, they entered a vast, shared world. A dreamscape that was part fantasy, part collective unconscious. First it was chaos. Imagine billions of minds suddenly thrown together in a world where the laws of physics didn't apply. People were terrified, confused. But as weeks passed, a sort of order emerged. The dreamscape became a second life for most people. They formed communities, built impossible cities, lived out fantasies. Me. I slept through it all. Literally. I've had chronic insomnia since I was a teenager. While the world was exploring this new shared reality, I was tossing and turning, downing sleeping pills that never seemed to work. I caught glimpses sometimes. Flashes of fantastic landscapes, faces I didn't recognize. But I never fully entered the dream. I was an outsider in a world that had suddenly become intimately connected. During the day, all anyone talked about was what happened in the dream. New relationships formed, business deals were made, art was created. All within this shared unconscious space. And I was missing out on all of it. That's when I met Dr. Elena Rossi. She was a sleep specialist, one of the many scientists trying to understand the dream sync. When she heard about my condition, she was intrigued. Most of her patients wanted help staying in the dream longer. I was the first she'd met who couldn't get in at all.
It's fascinating. Your brain activity during sleep is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's almost as if you're resisting the shared dream somehow.
Trust me, Doc, if I could choose to join in, I would. Being left out isn't exactly fun. Dr. Rossi leaned forward, her dark eyes intense.
But what if it's not about being left out, Alex? What if your brain is doing something different?
That was the beginning. Over the next few months, Dr. Rossi ran every test imaginable. EEGs, MRIs, sleep studies, you name it, I went through it. And slowly, a picture began to emerge. My brain wasn't broken. It was special. Dr. Rossi pointed to a complex graph on her computer screen and said,
Your mind seems to exist on the periphery of the dreamscape. You're not fully in, but you're not fully out either. It's as if you're skimming the surface.
What does that mean?
It means, Alex, that you might be able to do something nobody else can. You might be able to observe the dream without being fully immersed in it. And if we can figure out how to control it.
She didn't need to finish the sentence. I understood the implications immediately. In a world where the dreamscape had become as important as the waking world, the ability to watch without being seen would be invaluable. And potentially dangerous. That's when the real work began. Night after night, I would lie in a special lab, hooked up to machines, trying to consciously direct my semi-conscious mind. It was frustrating, exhausting work. Most nights, nothing happened at all. But then, about 6 weeks in, I had a breakthrough. I remember it clearly. I was floating in that hazy space between waking and sleeping when suddenly, I felt a shift. It was like stepping through an invisible curtain. I could see the dreamscape spread out below me, a swirling mass of colors and shapes. And the people, millions of them, their minds glowing like stars in a vast cosmos. I was seeing the shared dream, but I wasn't part of it. I was above it all, an unseen observer. When I told Dr. Rossi what had happened, she was ecstatic.
This is incredible, Alex. Do you realize what this means? You could be the key to understanding how the dream sync works.
But as we continued our research, I began to realize something else. I wasn't just observing the dream. I could influence it. Started small. I found that if I concentrated hard enough, I could create tiny changes in the dreamscape. A flower blooming here, a change in weather there. Nothing major, but enough to prove it was possible. Dr. Rossi was cautious.
We need to be careful, Alex. The ethical implications of manipulating a shared consciousness are enormous. We don't know what effects this could have.
I agreed, of course. But a part of me was thrilled by the discovery. For years I'd been an outsider, unable to participate in this new world. Now I had power over it. It was intoxicating. We kept the research secret, working late nights in the lab. I got better at controlling my abilities, learning to make bigger changes in the dreamscape. I could alter landscapes, create objects, even influence the emotions of dreamers. That's when things started to go wrong. It began with small incidents. People reporting strange occurrences in their dreams. Objects moving on their own. Sudden shifts in the environment. At first, it was dismissed as normal dream weirdness. But as the incidents increased, people began to get worried. I knew it was my doing. In my eagerness to test my abilities, I'd been making bigger and bigger changes, not thinking about the consequences. But I couldn't admit it to anyone, not even Dr. Rossi. I was afraid of losing the one thing that made me special. Then came the night of the storm. I was in the lab, pushing my abilities further than ever before. I created a massive storm in the dreamscape, a swirling vortex of wind and lightning that spanned miles. It was exhilarating, feeling that much power at my fingertips. But I lost control. The storm grew beyond my ability to contain it, raging across the entire dreamscape. In the real world, millions of people woke up screaming, their minds battered by the psychic tempest I'd created. The next day was chaos. News reports were filled with accounts of the dream storm. People were panicked, afraid to go to sleep. And in the middle of it all, I sat in Dr. Rossi's office, finally confessing what I'd done. I expected her to be angry, to turn me in to the authorities. Instead, she was terrified.
Alex, we're in serious trouble. The government has been monitoring our research. They know about your abilities, and after last night, they're coming for you.
As if on cue, we heard a commotion outside the office. Men in dark suits were pouring into the lab. Dr. Rossi told me to run, pressing a flash drive into my hand.
This has everything we've learned. Find somewhere safe. I'll hold them off as long as I can. Now go.
I didn't have time to argue. I slipped out the back exit as I heard Dr. Rossi greeting the men. Her voice calm and professional as if nothing was wrong. That was 3 months ago. I've been on the run ever since, moving from city to city, never staying in one place for long. I know they're looking for me. Government agents, private corporations, maybe even foreign powers. Everyone wants to control the person who can manipulate the shared dreams of humanity. I've gotten better at hiding, both in the real world and in the dreamscape. I've learned to create a sort of mental camouflage, blending into the background of dreams so that no one notices my presence. But it's exhausting constantly being on guard. There have been close calls. Once, in a dingy motel in Ohio, I woke up to find a team of black-clad operatives breaking down my door. I barely escaped by entering the dream state and creating a distraction in their minds. A false memory of seeing me run down the street. Another time, I noticed a pattern in my dreams, a recurring face that seemed to be searching for something. Took me a while to realize it was another dreamer hunting for me, someone with abilities almost like mine. I managed to throw them off the trail, but it was a stark reminder that I'm not as alone in my powers as I thought. I've tried to use my abilities for good when I can. I've eased the nightmares of children, planted seeds of inspiration in the minds of artists and scientists. Once, I even managed to guide a dreaming detective to a crucial piece of evidence that solved a cold case. But every use of my power, no matter how small, risks exposure. And I know that sooner or later, they'll find me. That's why I'm writing this now. If you're reading this, it means I've managed to plant this message in the shared dreamscape, a hidden note that only someone like me could find and understand. I need help. There must be others out there like me. People who can navigate the dreamscape in ways others can't. If you're one of them, if you're reading this, please find me. Together, maybe we can figure out why this is happening to us. Why we're different. And maybe, just maybe, we can use our abilities to protect the dreamscape instead of manipulating it. Because I've seen what's coming. In my journeys through the collective unconscious, I've glimpsed something dark on the horizon. Something that threatens not just our dreams but our waking world as well. And I have a feeling that those of us who can manipulate the dreamscape are the only ones who can stop it. So please, if you're out there, find me. Before it's too late. As I finish writing this, I can feel them getting closer. The dreamscape is shifting around me. Patterns changing in ways that tell me someone is searching. I'll have to move again soon. Find another hidden corner of humanity's shared unconscious to hide in. But I'm tired of running. Tired of being afraid. Whatever happens next, I know one thing for certain. The power to shape dreams comes with a responsibility. And it's time I stopped hiding from it. My name is Alex Thompson. I am the Dream Weaver. And this is only the beginning of our story.